Creep night. Sure to send a chill down your spine. I'm sharing this with you not to instill fear, but to offer a warning. Fully anticipate that my words will be met with skepticism. You might easily dismiss this account as a fabrication, a desperate bid for attention, or simply the ramblings of a deranged mind hidden behind a computer screen. But I assure you, the events that unfolded on the fateful New Year's Eve were not only real, but profoundly impactful. The consequences of that night may have not have reached your particular corner of the world just yet, but they will. The ripple effect of that night is inevitable and far reaching. Perhaps you're wondering why I'm choosing to share this now, and why with you. The truth is, I don't have all the answers. I don't fully comprehend the mechanics of what transpired, or the extent of the impending repercussions. All I know is that the ominous shift occurred that night, a shift that I can't ignore or explain away. It's as if a veil was lifted, revealing a chilling reality that most of us were blissfully unaware of. I understand that this all sounds incredibly far fetched. I sound like a conspiracy theorist or a doomsday prophet, but I'm not trying to predict the end of the world or to spread panic. I'm simply trying to share what I know in the hope that it might help somebody somewhere. Maybe it won't make a difference. Maybe it's just wasting my breath. But I can't shake the feeling that I have a responsibility to speak out to warn others of what's coming. I wish I could offer you more concrete evidence, something tangible to back up my claims. But the nature of what happened defies easy proof. It's not something that can be captured on camera or measured by a laboratory. It's more of a feeling, a sense of unease that has settled for everything. It's in the air, in the water, in the very fabric of reality. I know. This is a lot to take in. Probably overwhelming and maybe even terrifying, but I urge you to keep an open mind. Don't dismiss this out of hand. Pay attention to the world around you. Notice the subtle changes, the things that feel off. Trust your instincts. And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask questions. Seek out the truth, wherever it may lead you. The aroma of warm vanilla and melting chocolate filled the air, a comforting scent that always seemed to bring a warm sense of anticipation. It was December 31st, the last day of the year, and the clock had just tickled past 9:30. Everything seemed perfectly fine. The gentle hum of the oven and the soft clicking of the utensils against the mixing bowl providing a soothing soundtrack to the evening. I was in my element, flour dusting my apron, and a content smile gracing my lips as I carefully scooped mounds of dough onto the baking tray. The kitchen was my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in the art of baking, and tonight was no exception. My niece and nephews were due to arrive any minute, their excitement palate as they eagerly awaited the first taste of my famous chocolate chip cookies. The recipe had been passed down through generations, a cherished family tradition that always brought joy to the young and old alike. The ground beneath my feet trembled violently, sending a wave of panic through my body. The once tranquil atmosphere was shattered by the ear-splitting explosion that reverberated through the air. Force of the blast knocked me off balance, and I struggled to regain my footing amidst the chaos. The explosion seemed to have originated from an unknown source, leaving everyone in a state of disarray and confusion. My heart pounded in my chest as I frantically scanned the room, my eyes searching for any sign of distress from the children. Relief washed over me as I confirmed their safety, their innocent faces oblivious to the chaos that had just erupted outside. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I leaped to my feet, my bare feet slapping against the cold, hard floor. Burst of urgency, I sprinted towards the front door, flinging it open to confront the source of the commotion. The sight that greeted me was both breathtaking and bewildering. The once inky blackness of the night sky had been replaced by a vibrant, fiery orange hue, casting an eerie glow upon the surroundings. Confusion gnawed at me as I tried to reconcile the inconsistency of the illuminated sky with the darkness that should have enveloped the night. As if this wasn't unsettling enough, a sinister cloud of smoke billowed from the horizon, rapidly advancing towards me. A primal instinct took over, and I turned and fled back inside, slamming the door with a resounding crash that echoed through the stillness of the house. Even from within supposed safety of my home, I could sense the oppressive presence of the smoke as it enveloped the dwelling, its tendrils seeping through every crack and crevice. The air grew heavy, thick, with a citric scent of burning, making each breath a struggle. The once familiar sounds of the night were drowned out by a mournful wail of the wind as it whipped around the house, its fury mirroring the chaos that raged outside. Then, as abruptly as it had arrived, the smoke dissipated, leaving behind an eerie, intractable fog that clung to the ground like a shroud. The world outside was now an alien landscape, the familiar landmarks obscured by a dense mist, creating a sense of disorientation and unease. The silence that followed was more unsettling than the howling wind, broken only by an erratic pounding of my own heart. I couldn't tell you how long it took for the aftershock of the night to be, but I'll warn you now. If you scare easily, turn back and stop listening. The smoke was thick and acidic, and I remember fighting the urge to breathe in. I even started to seal up the cracks in the windows and the doors to keep it out. Time seemed to lose all meaning. What felt like an hour, I started hearing strange noises from outside. They were distant and muffled, but they sounded almost like screams. Fear gnawed at my gut, and I quickly locked all the doors and windows. I turned on the TV, desperate for any distraction, and flipped to the local news channel to find out more information. We're standing outside near a factory that just exploded. There is orange smoke going around. Whatever you do not breathe it in. The scene before me was both captivating and disconcerting. The news anchor, a figure of supposed authority and composure, was relaying information with an eerie calmness while enveloped in a haze of orange smoke. The incontrovertibly of the situation was striking. The normacy of his tone juxtaposed with the bizarre and unsettling atmosphere created by the smoke. It was as if he was oblivious to the strangeness of it all, or perhaps he was deliberately ignoring it. The source of the orange smoke was unclear, adding another layer of mystery to already a complex scene. Was it deliberate effect, a bizarre accident, or something more sinister? The question swirled in my mind, mirroring this swirling smoke that seemed to dance around the anchor with an almost mocking grace. Anchor's words, though delivered with professionalism, pose held little meaning for me at that moment. My attention was entirely consumed by the visual spectacle before me and the unsettling noises that continued to filter it from outside. The dissonance between the anchor's calm demeanor and the growing sense of unease within me was palpable. A whirlwind of ash and smoke engulfed the area, and through the haze I witnessed a scene that defied all logic. The figures emerging from the smoke were not people in the conventional sense. Their movements were jerky and unnatural, their eyes devoid of any semblance of humanity. They converged upon the news anchor with an unnerving speed. The anchor, a picture of professionalism, just moments before, now wore an expression of stark horror. His attempts to flee were futile as the figures closed in, their hands reaching out with an almost predatory intent. They grabbed him and began to consume him. I stared at the blank screen, the silence in the room, a stark contrast to the chaos I'd just witnessed. The warmth of the freshly baked cookies on the counter seemed like a distant memory, a relic from a time before my night had taken a terrifying turn for the worst. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythm echoing the frantic footsteps I'd seen on the screen, the images flashing before my eyes, the vacant stares, the jerky movements, the utter emptiness in their eyes. These weren't people anymore. They were driven by some primal instinct that I could not comprehend. The same terror that had gripped me while watching the news now intensified tenfold. The horror on the screen had spilled into my reality. They were here, just outside my window, in my neighborhood, on my street. The safe haven that I'd always known was now a battleground, and I was trapped in the middle of it. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I realized the full extent of my situation. The night had turned into a living nightmare, and I had no idea how to wake up from it. The unsettling sounds of distant screaming filled the air with a chilling uncertainty that had gripped me. The once comforting walls of my home now seemed like a fragile barrier against an unknown threat. The screams, distant yet distinct, sending shivers down my spine. And rise a thousand questions in my mind. Should I venture out into the unknown, or should I remain within the perceived safety of my home? Logic and reason war with fear and apprehensive, creating a maelstrom of conflicting emotions within me. The rational part of my mind argues that staying put might be the safest course of action. After all, the source of the screams are unknown, and venturing out could expose me to unforeseen dangers, yet a nagging sense of responsibility tugs at my consciousness. What if someone is in potential need of help? What if those screams are a desperate plea for assistance? The weight of potential inaction bears down upon me, feeling fueling my anxiety and amplifying the sense of dread that has settled over me. The darkness outside seems to press against the windows, and every creaking groan of the house seems to amplify it tenfold. The imagination runs wild, conjuring up images of unspeakable horrors that might be lurking just beyond my doorstep. Fear, like a relentless tide, threatens to overwhelm me. The screaming continues, a haunting soundtrack to my growing unease. Time seems to have slowed to a crawl, each passing moment an eternity. The conflict within me rages on, and the screams continue unabated. The decision of whether to stay or go hangs heavy in the air. An uncertainty of the situation is almost unbearable. The oppressive silence of the house has broken only the frantic pounding of my heart. Each beat echoed like a drum, a consistent reminder of the fear that gripped me. My mind raced, haunted by the same terrifying question. What if those things out there lurking in the shadows are waiting for me? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, and I stood deeper into the worn armchair, seeking protection from the unseen horrors that might lie beyond the safety of my home. I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was waiting for me out there. Every time I glanced out the window, the swirling orange smoke that enveloped the town seemed to mock me, its tendrils reaching out like grasping hands. Was as if the smoke itself was alive, a malevolent entity that poisoned the air and transformed my once peaceful town into a nightmare. The fear gnawed at me, fueled by my uncertainty of what lay beyond my front door. Would I, too, become one of those things if I dared to venture out? Would I, too, become mad by the smoke, like so many other people did that I saw? Their bodies twisted and conformed into some primal animal? Would I, too, become that? Fueled by an uncontrollable desire to eat the flesh of the living or have a bloodthirst for violence? No, I couldn't do that. Not me. I shuddered at the thought, my stomach churning with nausea. The image of those poor souls, once neighbors and friends, now monstrous shadows of their former selves, burned into my memory. I couldn't risk becoming one of them. And yet the isolation was eating away at me, the loneliness, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I longed for human contact, for a soul, a sound of a friendly voice, for reassurance that I wasn't alone in this living nightmare. But the fear was stronger. It held me captive, a prisoner in my own home, trapped by a terrifying unknown that lurked just beyond the threshold. The orange smoke continued to swirl outside, a constant reminder of the danger that awaited me. And so I remained, caught in a limbo of fear and isolation, my mind a battleground of conflicting emotions, my heart heavy with the dread of what the future might hold. The silence was deafening these past 4 days, broken only by the creaks and groans of the household and the distant, unsettling sounds that filter in from the outside world. The same question echoes endlessly in my mind. Should I venture out and face the unknown, or remain trapped with these familiar walls, a prisoner of my own fear? Every shadow seems to harbor a threat, every sound a hair-bending of doom. My imagination runs wild, conjuring up images of the horrors that might await me beyond the safety of my home. Yet, the gnawing hunger for knowledge, the desperate need to understand what has become of the world I once knew, grows stronger every passing moment. I resolved to end this self imposed exile. Tomorrow, I will step out into the daylight and confront whatever awaits me. If my fears are realized, if I have indeed become one of these creatures that now roam the earth, then I will never return to write these words. My silence will be the only testament to the truth, a chilling answer to the question that haunts us all. What waits outside our doors?